Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to completely shatter the illusion of a straight line of human progress. We so often think of history as this steady, predictable climb, right? Starting from primitive stone tools and moving all the way up to our modern marvels. But what if I told you that humanity didn't just invent incredible technology, but we actually lost it? And I'm not talking about a couple hundred years ago, I mean thousands of years ago. Today, we are diving deep to uncover these absolutely incredible technologies, brilliant inventions, and deeply guarded secrets that ancient people once possessed and that humanity, tragically, just lost. So let's dive right into this. It is so easy to look back at ancient civilizations and just assume, oh, they were way less advanced than we are today. But history isn't just a simple story of progress. Sometimes it's actually the story of knowledge that simply vanished. We're talking about profound knowledge buried beneath ruined cities or totally lost with civilizations that just never got the chance to pass their secrets on. Let's start with Section 1, the machine that shouldn't exist, the Antikythera Mechanism. Okay, picture this. It's 1901, and sponge divers are exploring a 2,000-year-old shipwreck deep down in the Mediterranean Sea. They pull up what basically looks like a lump of green, heavily corroded bronze. But when archaeologists finally manage to separate the pieces, mind blown. It wasn't a statue. It was literally the world's first analog computer. More than 2,000 years before we even had electricity, someone out there built this impossibly complex, hand-powered mechanical calculator. It was packed with dozens of perfectly interlocking gears that literally modeled the sky. It predicted solar and lunar eclipses, it tracked planetary cycles, and it even forecasted ancient athletic festivals. This is a level of technological sophistication that Europe wouldn't see again for another 1,000 years. It really makes you wonder, right? Is this just the last surviving piece of a totally erased technological era? Moving on to Section 2, the lost supermaterials, engineering that outlasts the modern world. Let's look at some ancient chemistry that achieved feats we legitimately still struggle to match today. There is a shockingly stark contrast between ancient and modern engineering. Think about it. If you build a bridge today using our modern concrete, the seawater is going to slowly eat away at it, and it'll probably start cracking in just a few decades. But Roman concrete? That stuff has been sitting in the ocean for over 2,000 years. Here's their secret. The Romans mixed volcanic ash, lime, and rock, and when seawater seeped into tiny cracks in their concrete, it actually triggered these chemical reactions that created brand new minerals. It naturally repaired its own cracks from the inside out. So the ocean, the exact same thing that destroys our modern concrete, actually made Roman concrete stronger. That is just brilliant. And speaking of lost chemistry, we have to talk about the forging process of the legendary Wootz steel. In ancient India, craftsmen used this highly precise four-step method. They would heat iron alongside carbon-rich materials inside sealed clay crucibles, reaching just absurdly high furnace temperatures. What they got out of it were these unique, solid steel ingots with a very specific carbon distribution. These ingots were then traded all the way across the Middle East to master swordsmiths, who used them to forge the famous Damascus blades. These were weapons known for exceptional sharpness and these gorgeous, wavy patterns on the metal. Kings obsessively collected them, and rival armies absolutely feared them. But here is the really crucial point to take away from this. This incredible metallurgical recipe wasn't destroyed in a single, catastrophic day. The swords themselves, they still exist. But the process was only passed down quietly from master to apprentice. So as trade routes shifted, raw materials dried up, and those master craftsmen eventually passed away, the technology just quietly vanished. It really goes to show you that history often loses its absolute greatest advancements just one generation at a time. 1,600, that's a big number. Specifically, 1,600 years. That is exactly how long the massive 6-ton iron pillar of Delhi has stood completely exposed to the elements. We're talking scorching Indian summers and absolute downpours during monsoon season, and it has survived completely without rusting. By all modern logic, it should have collapsed into a pile of red dust centuries ago, but it stands there today looking as if time just entirely forgot about it. So how did they do it? Ancient Indian metalworkers forged this massive structure without modern blast furnaces or, computerized temperature controls. They demonstrated a masterful, almost unbelievable understanding of chemistry. You see, this ancient iron contained unusually high levels of phosphorus and very low levels of sulfur and manganese. Over time, that specific mixture formed a natural shield, basically a microscopic protective layer that completely halted corrosion. It wasn't magic, even though it seems like it. It was a highly advanced scientific application achieved 16 centuries ago. All right, Section 3, Classified Secrets of Empires, Technology as State Power. Because sometimes technology isn't lost by accident. Sometimes it's hidden on purpose. Imagine this for a second. You're in an invading enemy fleet approaching a city, and suddenly a stream of blazing fire shoots directly across the water at you. Your crew panics. They throw buckets of seawater on it to put it out, but the fire just keeps burning. In fact, the water makes it spread. That was the terrifying reality of Greek fire. It was a highly classified weapon of the Byzantine Empire, and for nearly 700 years, this unstoppable, completely water-resistant fire protected their capital from invading armies. To this day, we actually don't know the exact recipe. Historians theorize it probably contained a mix of ingredients like petroleum, pine resin, quicklime, and sulfur. But the Byzantine Empire guarded this formula so incredibly carefully that no detailed instruction manual ever survived. So when the empire finally fell, the secret of Greek fire vanished right along with it. It remains one of the greatest unsolved puzzles in military history. It proves that while protecting a secret can definitely protect an empire, losing that secret means history might literally never recover it. Here's another heavily guarded, super valuable secret: Egyptian blue. Created over 5,000 years ago, it's widely considered one of the earliest known synthetic pigments ever made by humans. Ancient craftsmen would heat a very specific mixture of silica, copper compounds, and lime at extreme temperatures. And here's what's absolutely fascinating about this today. Modern scientists actually use this pigment's unique ability to emit infrared radiation to track it on ancient artifacts, even when the color itself has faded and is completely invisible to the naked human eye. Think about that. A 5,000-year-old lost technology is literally helping modern scientists study the past today. Which brings us to Section 4, Engineering the Impossible, Mastering the Earth and Sky. Imagine trying to build a thriving city in the middle of a scorching desert. You have no rivers, and obviously no modern electric pumps. How on earth do you survive? Well, the ancient Persians came up with the Qanat water system. To really appreciate the sheer brilliance of this engineering, look at the process. Workers dug these deep vertical shafts straight down into the earth, and then connected them with a gently, precisely sloping underground tunnel. Without a drop of electricity, they calculated the exact angles required. If the tunnel was too steep, the rushing water would erode and destroy the system. If it was too flat, the water would just pool and stop moving. They essentially harnessed pure gravity to silently carry fresh groundwater to their desert cities for centuries. So they mastered the earth, but they also mastered the sky. These civilizations engineered incredible solutions to impossible environments, but they also mapped the cosmos without any of our modern tools. Looking up, they basically read the night sky like a computer. Without telescopes or satellites, they recognized complex patterns in cycles. The Babylonians used deep, multi-generational records in math to actually predict lunar eclipses. The Maya tracked the movements of Venus and created breathtakingly accurate calendars. Ancient India was pioneering advanced mathematical and astronomical calculations. They predicted celestial events through pure, raw observation and generations of accumulated math. And finally, we hit Section 5, the fragility of knowledge. This brings us to what is arguably the most tragic loss of all, when the mind of the world disappears. Because now, we aren't just talking about the loss of cool physical objects or hidden military weapons. We are talking about the loss of pure, foundational knowledge. Over 2,200 years ago in ancient Egypt, the Library of Alexandria was born. It wasn't built to fight wars. It was built with one incredibly ambitious goal: to collect every single book in the entire world. Any ship that arrived at their port was literally required by law to hand over its manuscripts so scribes could meticulously copy them. It truly was the greatest intellectual project in human history. It gathered the absolute brightest scholars from Greece, Egypt, Persia, India, and way beyond. We're talking about the foundational texts of mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, engineering, and history, all housed under one roof. But then, through a series of wars, fires, and political conflicts spanning several centuries, the library fell into decline and was ultimately destroyed. An extraordinary, almost incomprehensible amount of unique ancient ideas, observations, and scientific techniques simply vanished into ash and ruin. It's totally possible that this single loss set human scientific progress back by centuries. Because civilizations don't just lose buildings and monuments, right? They lose ideas. We can always rebuild a city. We can redesign a bridge. But recovering lost knowledge, once that fragile chain of human memory is broken, is so much harder. The ancient world wasn't primitive. It was a place of astonishing intelligence, filled with inventors and scientists who found incredible solutions to seemingly impossible problems. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. As we look to the future, always striving for that next incredible technological breakthrough, what if the next great discovery is actually something humanity already knew thousands of years ago? The past isn't always just behind us. Sometimes it's waiting beneath the ground or buried at the bottom of the sea, just waiting to be rediscovered. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. And remember to always keep questioning what we think we know about our own history.